Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So, what if I told you that great research isn't about following a recipe, that it's actually more like playing a game? Well, today we're diving into a guide that totally reframes how we should think about the whole process. And this right here, this is the powerful idea at the very heart of it all. See, it's not really about mechanics, it's all about your mindset. Most of us were probably taught that research is this super rigid step-by-step thing, right? Like you're just following a recipe. But the guide we're looking at today says, nope, that's completely wrong. It frames research as something way more dynamic, more personal. It's a journey, an adventure even. All right, so let's get into it. The first stage of any great adventure is answering the call, right? And when it comes to research, answering that call means we have to challenge some of the common myths about what it even is to be a researcher. I mean, we all have this picture in our heads, don't we? The researcher in a lab coat, totally logical, no emotion, just following a strict set of rules. But that stereotype, it can be so limiting. Real great research is, wow, so much more than that. So instead, let's think of research as a whole brain thing. It's this game that needs your entire thinking toolkit, not just the logical, analytical part, but the creative, the intuitive, the imaginative side too. And really, this boils down to two different ways of thinking. On the one hand, you've got that analytic, logical side. That's what gives your work structure and focus. But then, on the other hand, you have the intuitive and imaginative side. And that's where the breakthroughs happen, those aha moments. The thing is, real research needs both. You absolutely can't have one without the other. So the real goal here isn't to be one or the other. It's to master both. The absolute best researchers are the ones who can think way outside the box with all this creativity, but then they build a perfectly logical structure around that idea to explore it. It's this beautiful paradox, really, staying on target while thinking way outside the square. Okay, so if research is a journey, then where exactly are we going? Well, every adventure needs a destination, and in the world of research, that destination isn't actually an answer. It's a question. A really great question becomes the North Star that guides your entire project. And look, finding that perfect question, it's not some single flash of genius. It's a process. It all kicks off with just a little spark of curiosity. From there, you start exploring different angles, trying to find those gaps that maybe other people have missed. Then, the hard work begins, narrowing it down, clarifying it, and just constantly redefining it until your question is sharp, focused, and actually researchable. And this is so crucial. It's not a one-and-done thing. You really shouldn't be afraid to let your question evolve. In fact, it should evolve. As you read more and dig deeper, your own understanding gets sharper, and naturally, your question will too. Just think of it like a living, breathing part of your journey. All right, now, every hero's journey has its trials, right? And they aren't always, external monsters or big puzzles to solve. When it comes to research, some of the biggest, most profound challenges you're going to face are internal. Because here's the truth, the research process isn't just about the data or the topic you're studying. It's fundamentally about you. There's just no such thing as a perfectly detached, objective observer. You, the researcher, are always part of the equation. I mean, it makes sense, right? We're all products of our social context, our gender, our class, our race, our culture. We can't just hang up all our life experiences and biases at the door when we start a project. They come right in with us. And these attributes, they can place us in positions of power and privilege, or maybe disadvantage and marginalization. These are not just labels, they actually shape how we see the world. And just as importantly, they shape how the people we research see and interact with us. Think about it. A male researcher might get totally different answers from a study participant than a female researcher would. It matters. Now look, this isn't about feeling guilty or trying to become some kind of blank slate. That's just impossible. It's all about awareness. Simply recognizing your own position is the first and maybe the most critical step toward doing ethical research. It's what we call being reflexive. So, after you've navigated the whole creative process and that intense inner journey, you finally arrive at your findings. But now what? How do you make sure that what you've found is credible, that it's actually trustworthy? Well, this is the final quest. The source material has this great definition of credibility. It says it's the power to elicit belief. I love that. So the real question becomes, how do you build that power into your work? How do you convince other people that what you found is valuable and, true? Well, it turns out the answer kind of depends on your starting worldview. Think of it like this. There's the traditional positivist view, which sees the world like a big machine. It's knowable, predictable, there's a single truth, and the researcher is just an objective observer. But then you've got the post-positivist view, which sees the world as way more complex and human. It's ambiguous, there are multiple realities, and the researcher is always part of the story. The tools you use for credibility have to match the world you're trying to describe. So, in that traditional, positivist world, the gold standard is something called reliability. And this is all about consistency. It's asking a pretty simple question. If someone else followed my exact steps, would they get the same results? It's all about creating a repeatable experiment. But what if you're studying something that you can't perfectly repeat? Like, say, the culture of a specific workplace or the experience of a one-time event. This is where dependability comes in. In that post-positivist world, it accepts that, hey, perfect replication might not be possible. So instead, it asks different questions. Was your process transparent? Is it systematic, well-documented, and logical? Can somebody else basically audit your steps and see how you got to your conclusions, even if they can't get the exact same result? So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that credibility isn't some rigid checklist. It's about making thoughtful, informed choices to find the most appropriate way to build trust for your specific question. It's all about making sure your work has that power to elicit belief, no matter what it is you're studying. Okay, so your adventure is almost over. You've forged your great question, you've navigated the trials, and you've returned with credible knowledge. But there is one last, absolutely crucial step. The last thing you want is for your research to end up as some dusty report on a shelf, right? So let's think about the final write-up in a much more exciting way. You are starting a conversation. This is your contribution to a huge ongoing dialogue. It's your chance to share what you discovered and really move that conversation forward. This entire process, this whole incredible adventure, it all begins with just one little spark of curiosity that gets forged into a question. So, I'll just leave you with this. What's yours?